HOA ordered him to remove his front yard garden. In a quiet corner of Florida, one man turned his grief into beauty. A garden of tulips for his late wife. Rows of vegetables to feed his soul. A single oak tree to honor his father. But to the HOA that ruled his neighborhood, this wasn't a story of healing. It was a violation. And what began as a personal tribute would soon become a battle that shook a community to its core. This is David Harper, a 64-year-old retired history teacher. After decades shaping young minds in Miami, he moved here seeking solace after the hardest loss of his life. Ellen was my everything. When cancer took her, I felt like I was drowning. She loved tulips, always wanted a garden. So I planted this for her. For us. It's how I keep her close. The garden wasn't just plants. It was David's lifeline. The oak tree, planted for his late father, symbolized resilience, a promise to keep going. Neighbors called it Mr. Harper's oasis. Kids loved its colors. Butterflies flocked to it. But not everyone saw its charm. This jungle on Maple Drive is unacceptable. Vegetables in the front yard? A tree? We have rules for a reason, Susan. Draft a violation notice. Sunnyside Estates was Karen's domain. The HOA enforced uniformity, lawns mowed to exact lengths, mailboxes in regulation beige. David's garden was a defiant splash of life in their sterile world. A fine? For this? It's not hurting anyone. It's my home, my heart. David tried to reason with the HOA. He called, wrote emails, even knocked on their office door. But Karen Mitchell was immovable. Mr. Harper, our covenants are clear. Front yards are for grass, not farms. Remove it, or the consequences will escalate. It's not a farm. It's a memorial. For my wife. Can't you make an exception? Exceptions breed chaos. 5 days. David returned home, the notice crumpled in his hand. He stood in his garden, staring at the tulips, the oak. This was more than dirt, it was his survival. And he wasn't ready to let it go. David faced a choice, comply or resist. But the HOA had no idea what they'd unleashed. The fight for a garden was about to become a war for freedom. David Harper's garden was his refuge, a tribute to love and loss. But to the Sunnyside Estates HOA, it was a crime. When David refused to tear it down, the HOA didn't just fight back, they aimed to break him. David had 5 days to comply. He spent them digging, not in his garden, but through HOA bylaws, searching for a way to save it. He found nothing. But he also found resolve. Ellen always said, stand up for what's right. I couldn't let them erase her memory. So, I decided to fight. Day 6 arrived. The garden stood untouched. The HOA's response was ruthless. The fine snowballed. $900 became $1,500. Then came the ultimate threat, a lien on David's home, a legal move that could strip him of everything. This is cruel, David. It's just flowers and food. They can't take your house over this. They're betting I'll give up. But this garden's all I have left of her. I can't. David's Facebook post went viral. Neighbors shared it. Strangers commented, "This is an outrage. Keep your garden." A local blogger amplified the story, and soon, #SaveDavidsGarden was born. Why risk everything for a garden? It's not just a garden. It's my wife's legacy. My father's tree. My right to grieve in peace. They're stealing that from me. The publicity infuriated Karen Mitchell, the HOA president. She called an emergency board meeting, determined to squash David's resistance. This Harper nonsense is ruining our reputation. He's turning us into monsters. We need to act, more fines, legal pressure, anything. Karen, maybe we could meet with him? The neighbors are upset. Upset? They'll be bankrupt if they keep this up. No compromises. We enforce the rules. Back at David's house, the stakes were crushing. Bills mounted. The lien loomed. But support was growing too. We're with you, Mr. Harper. My mom and I planted basil yesterday. They can't stop us all. I don't know what to say. I just wanted to grow tulips. Thank you. As the HOA tightened its grip, David's story spread. A local lawyer, Sarah, offered free advice. Online forums buzzed with support. But the HOA's next move would test the neighborhood's resolve. The war was escalating. David had allies, but the HOA was merciless. How much could one man and one neighborhood endure? David Harper's garden was no longer just his own. It was a beacon of defiance. As the HOA piled on fines and threats, the people of Sunnyside Estates did something extraordinary. They planted their own gardens, turning a personal fight into a community uprising. It began with a few brave souls. Maria planted marigolds. Jake's family added peppers. Soon, over 40 yards in Sunnyside bloomed with life. The HOA was stunned. They thought David would fold. Instead, they faced a revolution. They think they can defy me? I'll bury them in fines. The HOA issued citations to 35 homes. But the neighbors didn't back down. They were done being controlled. They're trying to scare us, but look at your yards, your flowers, your food. This is our home. They can't silence us if we stand together. Let's crash their next meeting. Show up, all of us. They'll have to listen. David's story was now national news. #SaveDavidsGarden trended on social media. A local radio host dubbed it the Garden Rebellion. CNN sent a crew. Why join this fight? It's not just about Mr. Harper. The HOA controls everything: our houses, our lives. We're taking our yards back. The HOA, desperate to regain control, hired a lawyer to draft lien threats for every garden-owning home. They want to play dirty? We'll hit them where it hurts, their homes. But the community was one step ahead. Jake launched a website, sunnysidegardens.org, sharing stories and a petition to remove the HOA board. The petition needed 60% of homeowners to force a vote. By week's end, they had 70%. As the HOA meeting loomed, Sunnyside was unrecognizable. Lawns once identical now burst with individuality. But the fight was far from won. Ellen would have been amazed. It's not just my garden anymore, it's ours. We're not just fighting for plants, David. We're fighting for our freedom. The HOA thought they held the power. But Sunnyside was ready to prove them wrong. The meeting would be their reckoning. Sunnyside Estates was alive with gardens, but the war with the HOA was at its peak. David Harper's fight had rallied a neighborhood. Now, they faced their ultimate test, a confrontation at the HOA meeting that would decide their fate. The HOA expected compliance. Instead, they got a rebellion. We, the homeowners, present this petition. 350 signatures, 78% of Sunnyside, demand a vote to remove this board. This is absurd. You're all breaking the rules. Gavel pounds silence, or I'll end this meeting. Karen's control was slipping. The crowd's chants grew louder. For the first time, the HOA faced the people's fury. We don't want to destroy the HOA. We want fairness. My garden started this, but it's about all of us now. You find us, threatened our homes. It ends here. The petition was legally binding. A vote was set for the next week. But Karen wasn't done fighting. Ms. Mitchell, you're losing. The media's tearing you apart. Drop the fines, allow gardens, or you'll be ousted. No. Send lien notices to every garden home. They'll cave when their houses are at risk. The lien threats backfired spectacularly. Neighbors didn't retreat, they doubled down. Maria and Jake organized a legal counterattack. The vote arrived. 95% of residents showed up, a historic turnout. The results were overwhelming. For board dissolution, 85%. The motion passes. A new board was elected within days. They canceled all garden fines, including David's $2,000. They passed new bylaws, front yard gardens were now protected. David's garden was safe. But the victory was bigger, a triumph of unity over oppression. This tree's for Ellen, for Dad. But these gardens? They're for everyone who fought. The battle was over. But its legacy was just beginning. What did Sunnyside's victory mean for the future? David Harper's garden sparked a fire that changed Sunnyside Estates forever. It wasn't just about saving plants, it was about reclaiming freedom, community, and hope. This is the story of what grew from those seeds. Sunnyside was no longer a grid of identical lawns. It was a living mosaic. The new HOA board embraced this change, launching a Bloom Together initiative. Ellen always said gardens bring people together. She'd be proud of this. David's fines were erased. His home was secure. But he kept fighting, starting a blog, Grow Your Way, to help others challenge HOA overreach. Sunnyside's story inspired a movement. Across the country, homeowners cited David's victory to push back against restrictive HOAs. From Oregon to Georgia, gardens sprouted, and rules changed. For David, though, the garden remained his sanctuary, a place to honor Ellen and his father. I didn't want to start a war. I just wanted to keep her memory alive. But seeing these yards, it's like she's in every bloom. Sunnyside's fight was about more than gardens. It was about standing up to power that forgets compassion. About proving that together, we can rewrite the rules. David Harper planted a seed. It grew into a garden, a rebellion, a legacy. His story teaches us, even the smallest act of courage can change the world. Keep planting. Keep growing. Keep free.